All right, so joining us today are two important AFSOC leaders. So we have Lieutenant General Brad Webb here with us, the AFSOC commander, and then Chief Master Sergeant Gregory Smith, the AFSOC command chief. All right, so thank you both for joining us today. I appreciate your time. So my first question for you, sir, there's been an increased emphasis on restoring readiness across the Air Force. What changes have you implemented and seen across the command that helps restore AFSOC readiness?
Yeah, well, thanks for the question. The National Defense Strategy is really focused on how do we increase readiness and lethality to get after today's challenges for America. The unique aspect of special operations is that we're very busy command, AFSOC is always, so the real challenge for us is how do we continue to be primary in a kind of a counter-terrorist or a counter-violent extremist organization type of fight and be ready for what is called great powers competition. So the process is called force optimization. And of course it applies directly here at Cannon Air Force Base as we go weapon system by weapon system and unit by unit on how do we be able to balance staying primary for what our nation needs us to do from a counterterrorism perspective and to be ready in the future. So we watch very closely our deployment tempo and also our personnel tempo. And of course that is always a challenge because we as special operators genetically don't have it in us to be able to say no. We thoroughly enjoy our jobs and we want to be part of the mission, but we have to recognize that sometimes we just need some white space to be able to be ready for the next challenges down the road.
Chief, I'm going to go back to you now. Readiness, training, and education are vital aspects of being a well-rounded airman. How will AFSOC leaders continue to emphasize these assets?
Yeah, so I would probably rephrase this as training, education, and experience are fundamental aspects of readiness. And as long as you understand, and I've given you as the senior enlisted leader of this command and as a frontline supervisor, it's on you to make sure that the subordinates that you're charged with leading understand their training requirements to start with. Then we broaden on how you think or why I do these things. That's the education piece of it, and then over time you build experience. Out of those things comes overall readiness. So it's the time to train, it's understanding why I train, the education piece of it, and then it's the experience of when to apply certain aspects of that. That all increases the readiness of the force. As long as you're ready and have these three components, you can also focus on building the resiliency piece of this in there, and it has to be threaded all the way through. So a resilient force and a ready force is ready for any challenge that may come our way as identified by the National Defense Strategy.
Okay, sir. Thank you for that answer. General Webb, back to you. As commander of the most combat-intensive command in the Air Force, you're extremely busy. What advice would you give airmen who are trying to find a work and life balance?
Yeah, well, that's the challenge for all special operators. If by any measure, when we look at surveys on any AFSC and AFSOC, job satisfaction, the job satisfaction quotient through the roof. People understand their mission, they understand how they connect to the mission, they love their job. But of course, work-life balance becomes a challenge because they want to do work all the time. So really, this becomes a conversation that we have to have at the leadership level. And that's leadership from the headquarters to leadership at the wings, the groups and squadrons, to the frontline supervisory level about allowing for that, back to that kind of white space concept. You have to be able to unplug from your work. It's part of that fundamental resiliency aspect that it has to be fundamental. That is an educational experience because leadership generally will want to keep the throttles up to keep moving. So it's one that we have to pay attention to all the time, one that we have to continually balance, that work-life balance aspect, but it has to be ingrained kind of in the education aspect.
Okay. Chief Smith, so how can the enlisted force support General Webb's initiatives for resiliency?
Yeah, so in the resiliency line, it really starts at the individual or frontline supervisor level. We can have any program and put any degree of funding towards it, but it only works if we know A, who requires assistance or you know, additional attention. And at the initial supervisor level to the flight chief level, all the way up to the senior leadership level, we have to link those pieces together to make sure that we're looking after each other and that we're giving the members the different tools to look after themselves. So it's really about incorporating the programs and making sure we're aware of what programs are and how they apply at the lowest possible level.
So I'm going to have a follow-up question for you, sir. There have been several changes to the enlisted evaluation process. Can you speak to those changes and what we can expect in the future?
Absolutely. So there have been three kind of what we would consider seismic changes to the enlisted force or enlisted evaluation system and how we promote and test over the last 3 to 4 years. And that's caused a lot of confusion and anxiety amongst the enlisted force of, okay, how do we go forward? So the first is we removed, you know, our NCO Academy and Senior NCO Academy correspondence as a factor for promotion or reenlistment. That actually relieved some of the pressure on the force to focus on readiness and their internal requirements. Secondly, most recently, we just removed weighted airman promotion testing, WAPS testing from the senior NCOs, so tech sergeant to master, master to senior master sergeant, and senior to chief. And what that did is we have enough data points along an airman's career, any enlisted airman's career, to know where they're at in their career. So it really became the focus, the driving focus on promotion really became about performance. And that's what met General Goldfein's intent about reinvigorating and revitalizing the squadron level. So squadron leaders are at the best possible point of observation to observe performance in your primary duty, which is the primary focus. And then several of the other pieces with removing time and grade, time and service, and removing decoration points kind of takes the emphasis off of those things and puts everything on primary performance or performance in your primary duty as the focus of basis of promotion.
Fair enough, sir. Thank you for your answer. All right, so General Webb, my final question for you. As you reflect on your time leading AFSOC and see the growth and accomplishments during that time, what are you most proud of here at Cannon?
I'm most proud of the Air Commando culture, the Air Commando spirit. Without a doubt, any mission that is asked of this command is going to be accomplished with absolute success. It starts with an attitude. It starts with a baseline values that are inherent across air commandos. They form from the Air Force core values itself. But then it manifests itself in understanding that there is a way, we will find it. Again, but that's values-based. And so that plays itself out in combat. It plays itself out off-duty when an airman sees a need and responds to it. It's what I'll particularly take away from my time here in the command, and that I want to ensure that continues throughout time.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Okay.